God's chosen ones. There's a price for crossing you, and heaven collects with interest. What's coming for your enemies isn't a coincidence. It's a celestial verdict. Sealed in fire, the ones who lied, betrayed, mocked, and thought they got away. They're walking straight into a fate so terrifying that even the shadows will step back. This isn't just karma, it's the wrath of the Almighty, tailored for every wound they gave you. Comment 777, if you can already feel the judgment brewing. To my faithful warriors, to those who have stood by this channel with your prayers, your presence, and even your super thanks, my gratitude runs deeper than words. You are not just viewers, you are family. Stay locked in, because in the next few moments, I'll show you exactly why those who cross a chosen one don't just lose, they're marked. And once heaven marks them, there's no hiding from what comes next. God's chosen ones. The shocking fate waiting for those who cross you. The universe is not silent. It is a living system of justice. Always in motion, always recalibrating. Right now, it is preparing to balance the scales in ways that will leave no shadow of doubt. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. Every seed of betrayal planted against you will eventually sprout into a harvest they themselves must gather. For every whispered lie, every calculated slight, every door slammed in your face, there is a consequence set in motion, and those consequences, though sometimes delayed, are inevitable. Can you imagine what it will look like when every underhanded tactic used against you returns to the sender, magnified many times over? Spiritual confrontations are not mere disagreements, they are battlegrounds of destiny. They test your resolve, your patience, and your alignment with heaven's order. The prophets of old understood this deeply. Joseph was sold by his own brothers, yet rose to stand second only to Pharaoh. Genesis 50-20. What they intended for harm became the very road to his coronation. And isn't it striking that those who set traps for God's chosen often end up falling into their own snares? Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26-27. Think of the life of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch watchmaker who risked everything to hide Jews from the Nazis during World War II. She was betrayed, imprisoned, and tortured, but the cruelty she endured became the foundation of her global ministry of forgiveness. She once said, "There is no pit so deep that God's love is not deeper still." How many of your current battles might one day become the very platform from which you bless the world? And then there are the cautionary tales, the antagonists whose arrogance led to their downfall. Take the example of Charles Ponzi, the infamous con artist whose name is forever linked to deceit. In the early 20th century, his schemes promised riches but delivered ruin, leaving countless victims devastated. His legacy? Not wealth, but the eternal stain of fraud. When someone moves against you with malicious intent, it is as if they sign their own warrant in invisible ink, one that heaven will one day make visible. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. You are targeted for a reason. You carry a rare frequency, a resonance that makes the forces of darkness tremble. With every spiritual insight you gain, you become more distinguishable in the realm of the unseen. This is why distractions are hurled your way through gossip, jealousy, or sudden chaos. But remember the words of Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." When you refuse to retaliate, and instead stay anchored in your mission, you deny your enemies the satisfaction of pulling you from your divine path. Life will tempt you to step down into the mud where your adversaries wrestle. But you must rise above. Michelangelo, the Renaissance master, once said, "The greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving it. You were not chosen to roll in the dirt. You were chosen to build towers that touch the sky. So why waste your crown fighting battles you were never called to fight? When you were born to reign from higher ground, so here is the truth they do not want you to hear. Every ounce of hostility sent your way is secretly building the stage for your victory. Their schemes are scaffolding for the palace you are about to walk into. The attacks are not interruptions, they are confirmations. And when the day comes, and it will, you will stand. Unshakable, as proof that divine justice is not a myth. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12:19. Rise now. Shake off the dust. Refuse to play small. The same force that parted the Red Sea walks beside you. This is not the hour to hide. This is the hour to reign. No amount of negativity can halt the forward motion of a soul anchored in divine purpose. The path before you is not a random sequence of events. It is a carefully woven tapestry, where every thread of trial strengthens the fabric of your spirit. We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Romans 5:3-4. Each hardship is like the shaping of a diamond under unyielding pressure, cutting away what is unnecessary until only brilliance remains. Have you noticed how, even in your lowest valleys, there's a silent force arranging the steps beneath your feet? As we move forward, remember that every challenge you encounter is not a wall, but a chisel in the hand of the master sculptor. The storms that rise against you are not merely tests, they are sacred architects building fortresses of resilience in your soul. Think of the giant sequoia trees, whose roots intertwine deep beneath the soil. They stand for centuries because they draw strength from what cannot be seen. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. James 1:12. Could it be that the very winds you fear are the same winds pushing you into greater heights? Navigating life's challenges often feels like swimming upstream against a relentless current. Those who live brightly, who carry light in a darkened world, draw both admiration and attack. It's a strange paradox. Your joy becomes a magnet, not just for those seeking warmth, but also for those lost in their own shadows, like a moth circling a flame. Envy and malice are drawn to your glow. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. How many of your current battles are not because you are weak, but because your light is simply too bright for them to ignore? And yes, this negativity often hides in unexpected places, workplaces, friendships, even within the walls you once called home. There's a biblical parallel in the figure known as the Jezebel spirit, a force that seeks to undermine, to plant seeds of discouragement, to lure you into self-doubt. But remember the eagle, when storms come, it does not hide it, spreads its wings, and lets the violent winds carry it higher. The very turbulence meant to break you can be the lift that takes you beyond your enemy's reach. In art and story, this truth is echoed in Victor Hugo's Les Misérables. The character Jean Valjean rises from the bitterness of imprisonment to a life of sacrifice and redemption. His past was used against him, yet it became the stage for his transformation. And doesn't that mirror the way God redeems our pain? The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. There will be moments when the weight of these trials tempts you to retreat, but in those moments, remember that a seed buried in the dark does not despair. It uses the darkness as the womb of its growth. Have you thought about how many flowers had to push through heavy soil before they ever felt the sun? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Psalm 23:4. Spread your spiritual wings. Plant your feet on the solid rock of truth. This is not the time to dim your light, to make others comfortable. This is the time to burn brighter, to step forward as living proof that what was meant to destroy you has only refined you. Your journey is not over. It is only the beginning. And every shadow you face now will one day be a footnote in the testimony of your triumph. There is a kind of protection over your life that is not just a shield, it is a divine force field. A resonance at a frequency the enemy cannot breach. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Psalm 91:11. At times, it may feel as if attacks are coming from every direction, like arrows lost in a storm. But these onslaughts are not signs of weakness, they are indicators of progress. The gravitational pull toward your God-given destiny becomes stronger the closer you get. And that pull creates friction with anything that cannot go where you're headed. Have you realized how storms often gather most violently right before the breakthrough? In architecture, when building a cathedral, master builders design the arches to bear not just the present weight, but the weight of generations to come. In the same way, the challenges you face are not just for today, they are structural reinforcements for the future you will carry. Consider it pure joy. My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, James 1-2, could it be that the pressure you feel is heaven's way of adding load-bearing capacity to your soul? Your goodness unsettles some because they cannot decode the light you carry. Like particles in quantum physics, people's reactions to you collapse into one of two states: drawn closer by your warmth, or repelled by their own shadows. This is why leaving harmful situations, whether a dead-end job or a toxic relationship, is more than just escape. It is the demolition phase before the new foundation is laid. Theologians might call it sanctification, architects might call it site clearing. Athletes know it as that quiet moment between rounds when you recover, recalibrate, and prepare for the next strike. This decision to walk away from what drains you is not just about freeing space, it is about setting the stage for what is to come. Think of it as tuning an instrument. You cannot play heaven's melody if you remain out of alignment. Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. 2 Corinthians 6:14. How many blessings have been delayed because the stage was still cluttered with the wrong cast? More difficult is recognizing that some of those misaligned with you are people you once trusted. It's like discovering that a load-bearing wall in your house is cracked not because of sudden damage, but because it was never built to carry the weight of your calling. And yet, this revelation is a gift. It strips away illusions and leaves only the materials that can withstand the pressure of your ascent. There's a powerful real-world example in the life of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a man who stood like a lighthouse against the raging storm of apartheid in South Africa. He often declared, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." And here's the question: when your convictions are tested, will you protect them even if it costs you everything? When he recognized environments or alliances that threatened to erode his convictions, he didn't negotiate with compromise, he walked away. Sometimes it cost him influence, sometimes it cost him friends, but it preserved the integrity of the moral architecture he was building stone by stone, decision by decision, until it became part of the very foundation that helped dismantle systemic evil. It is a sobering thing to see betrayal or hidden opposition up close. But it is also clarifying. These moments act like the prism in physics, splitting a single beam of light into its true spectrum. Once you see the reality, you cannot unsee it. And once you know who stands with you, your steps become lighter, your vision sharper. The Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do to me? Psalm 118:6. So here is the unshakable truth. You are not losing people. You are losing liabilities. You are not walking away from safety. You are walking into sovereignty. The scaffolding is coming down. The stage lights are warming. And the main act, your divine purpose, is about to begin. Rise now. Plant your feet as if heaven's throne room is behind you. Because it is. This is not the moment to retreat. This is the moment to reign. The clarity you've gained is not just a passing thought. It's a compass recalibrated to true north, ensuring that your path remains free from the gravitational pull of toxic influences. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. With each step away from negativity, you lighten the load on your spirit. And in that lightness, you gain altitude. Isn't it remarkable how a single act of release can open the floodgates to blessings you didn't even know were waiting? Life has a way of balancing the scales. Every unjust word spoken against you, every scheme designed to trip you will, in time, turn back toward its source. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Galatians 6-7. But here's the paradox. Your role is not to monitor their harvest, it's to cultivate your own garden. How much more peace would fill your heart if you stopped tracking the downfall of your enemies and started nurturing the rise of your calling? Releasing the weight of old grudges isn't just an emotional choice, it's a strategic spiritual maneuver. It clears the mental bandwidth needed to discern the opportunities heaven is sending. Consider the example of Howard Schultz, the visionary former CEO of Starbucks, born into poverty. Schultz faced countless rejections when seeking investors, but he refused to dwell on the doors that slammed shut. Instead, he focused on the ones opening, building a global brand rooted in connection and experience. His story proves that when you release the bitterness of no, you create space for the abundance of yes. And of course, not everyone walks that path of transformation. History is littered with those who chose the opposite, clinging to vengeance and manipulation until it consumed them. One chilling example is Ferdinand Marcos, the former president of the Philippines, whose decades of corruption and greed eventually led to his downfall and exile. His empire, built on exploitation, crumbled when the people's patience and heaven's justice ran out. Doesn't this reveal that every corrupt throne is eventually dismantled, no matter how high it stands? As you move forward, keep your spirit anchored in gratitude and your eyes fixed on the possibilities ahead. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. When the familiar becomes hostile and those closest to you fail to understand your transformation, do not be dismayed. Could it be that heaven is removing certain voices from your circle so that you can finally hear his without interference? It's often strangers, those with no prior claim on your loyalty, who step in to offer encouragement when you need it most. These unexpected alliances are not accidents, they are divine appointments. Just as Ruth found favor in Boaz's field, Ruth 2:10-12, you too will encounter people positioned by God to propel you forward when the old crowd fades into the background. This exchange from the old to the new is the sacred rhythm of growth. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Isaiah 43:18-19. Yet, embracing the unfamiliar requires courage. You cannot carry the rusted chains of yesterday into the golden gates of tomorrow. Leave the ruins where they belong. Step boldly into the space that heaven has cleared for you. Your departure from the past is not abandonment, it is alignment. And alignment, in the language of eternity, is the very foundation of reigning. When you are walking the correct trajectory, the resistance you meet is often proof that you are cutting through territory. The enemy hoped you'd never enter. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. There will always be individuals, some hidden in the shadows, others smiling in plain sight, who quietly wish for your failure. But what they fail to understand is that the hostility they spread does not stick to you. It ricochets back toward them like a storm wind meeting a mountain. Have you noticed how a mountain doesn't move to meet the storm? It simply stands. And the storm eventually passes. Their provocations are designed to make you lose your composure, to drag you into their chaos. Yet your silence, your steadfastness, is like a dam holding back a flood. It frustrates them. And in their frustration, they often expose their own weaknesses. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. What would happen if, instead of matching their hostility, you simply kept building, kept moving forward, as if their words had no oxygen to breathe? The workplace can indeed feel like a battlefield. But not all battles are fought with swords. Some are fought with whispers, false smiles, and sudden mistakes that were no accident. In nature, this is much like a hawk soaring high. While crows try to peck at it mid-air, the hawk never turns back to fight. It simply climbs higher until the crows can no longer follow. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. Could it be that the elevation you're stepping into is precisely why the noise around you has grown louder? These acts of sabotage, whether subtle office politics or blatant attempts to discredit you, are doomed to backfire. It is in their very nature. Just as a venomous snake injects poison but cannot escape the consequences of its own nature, those who seek to harm you are writing the script for their own downfall. In the Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes suffered betrayal, imprisonment, and loss. Yet in time, the truth comes to light, and those who plotted against him are undone by their own greed and fear. Isn't that the pattern you've seen? That hidden malice, when pressed long enough, always reveals itself. You are being shielded from more than you can see. Sometimes the hand of God removes you from situations you thought you needed, not because you were losing, but because He was protecting you from battles that were never yours to fight. The Lord is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Psalm 91:2. The sooner you release the need for their approval, the freer you will be to move at heaven's pace instead of theirs, like the tides that come and go, regardless of whether anyone is watching. Your destiny does not wait for human applause. Oaks do not stop growing because the nearby shrubs complain about the shade. Eagles do not stop soaring because sparrows are jealous of their wingspan. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. So why should you stop or even slow down? For those who cannot understand the height you're called to, your mission is greater than the noise. Your calling is taller than their walls. The surest way to confront negativity is not to attack it, but to outlast it. And the surest way to outlast it is to keep your focus fixed forward, refusing to descend to their level. So rise, keep moving, plant your feet where truth stands, and lift your eyes where hope waits. This is not just survival, it is the preparation for reign. You are destined for greatness. And no human scheme can rewrite the blueprint heaven has designed for your life. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 19:21. Advancement for the chosen is not merely a matter of effort, it is a resonance, a spiritual frequency that aligns with heaven's architecture. Every time you press forward in excellence, even under pressure, you create a ripple effect in the unseen realm, a vibration that draws the right people, opportunities, and resources into your orbit. Have you noticed how your consistency attracts allies whose vision mirrors your own? These allies, handpicked by divine orchestration, are not random. In structural engineering, every great bridge has tension cables positioned with precision, each one bearing weight at exactly the right angle to maintain balance and stability. Likewise, the people heaven sends into your life at the right time are the support beams of your calling. Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. Ecclesiastes 4:9. Could it be that the doors you've been waiting on are locked? Not because you lack the key, but because the right co-builder hasn't arrived yet. In the workplace, resilience is often forged in silence. You show up early, stay late, shoulder extra tasks, and quietly solve problems others avoid. Yet, when you are in need, the room grows silent, and familiar faces fade into the background. Even worse, some seem to take satisfaction in adding weight to your load rather than lightening it. In psychological terms, this is a form of social displacement, people preserving their own comfort by placing greater strain on those they know can handle it. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28:7. How many times have you carried battles in secret? Victories no one applauded, simply because the world wasn't watching. This is your arena, a place where the heat of trial forges the steel of perseverance. In architecture, builders perform a stress test on foundations, applying more weight than the structure will ever have to bear, to ensure it will not fail. The pressures you face are heaven's stress tests, proofing you for the weight of glory you will one day carry. The example of Dr. Mae Jemison, the first African-American woman to travel in space. Before she ever touched the stars, she endured years of rejection, doubt, and subtle sabotage. She once said, "Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations." Her ascent required not just intelligence, but the resilience to rise above environments designed to hold her down. Isn't your current season the same, a training ground to prove your readiness for heights you've never known? And though the schemes against you may be elaborate, they cannot alter the final structure God is building. The Apostle Paul wrote, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8:31. The negative energy sent your way is like a miscalculated frequency in physics. It cannot penetrate the resonance field of someone attuned to heaven's wavelength. Your role is not to retaliate, but to advance, like a chess master who holds back a decisive move until the end game. Your patience will outlast their plotting. There is a moment in every championship match when the crowd grows quiet, not because the game is over, but because they sense a shift. You are in that moment now. The atmosphere is changing. The architect of your destiny is placing the final beams. So stand. Do not break formation. Keep building when no one thanks you. Keep walking when others fall away. Your story is not one of survival alone, it is one of dominion. And when the unveiling comes, even your enemies will have no choice but to see the masterpiece you have become. Keep your chin up during these hard times. Not because you're pretending the pain doesn't exist, but because you know the pain is producing something greater inside you. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. Romans 8:28. Facing challenges is not just about surviving the storm, it's about letting the storm shape you into a vessel capable of carrying the weight of the calling ahead. Have you considered that the very darkness you're enduring might be the training ground for the light you're about to release? You are moving toward a brighter future, a place untouched by the cynicism and resentment that tries to cling to you now. Those harboring bitterness and jealousy are not equipped to walk the path ahead. Like climbers without oxygen, tanks attempting to scale Everest, they will not survive at the altitude where you are headed. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. What happens when you keep ascending is simple. They fall away. Not because you pushed them, but because they chose not to prepare for the climb. Forget their small schemes and petty whispers. Fate, and more importantly God's justice, has a way of settling accounts. In history, we've seen this truth play out countless times. Consider Enron CEO Jeffrey Skilling. Once one of the most powerful executives in America, his manipulation of corporate systems led to one of the largest bankruptcies in U.S. history, ending his career in disgrace and prison time. Isn't it striking how the walls built on deception always collapse from the inside? Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Proverbs 26-27. Those trying to dim your brightness cannot comprehend the realm of optimism and purpose you're stepping into. It is beyond their imagination, because it is not theirs to walk. In contrast, there are those who use adversity to fuel their purpose. Take the example of painter Frida Kahlo, whose life was marked by physical pain and personal tragedy rather than retreat. She transformed her suffering into art that still inspires millions. She once said, "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?" Could your current wounds be the very brushstrokes God is using to create your masterpiece? A significant breakthrough is just ahead. The opposition you face now is the pressure before the release, the resistance before the acceleration. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54-17. Every attempt to pull you down is, in truth, a confirmation that you are rising. What if the spiritual warfare around you is less about what you've done wrong and more about what you're about to do right? View every challenge as a proving ground. Just as a blacksmith tempers steel by plunging it into fire, each hurdle you overcome strengthens your resolve. The lessons you gather in the heat of battle aren't just for the moment. They become the armor you'll wear for the rest of your mission. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial. James 1:12. So push on, hold your ground. Let the critics talk while you keep building. The noise will fade, but the work of your hands will stand. This is your moment to rise, to step beyond the ordinary and into the destiny that has been waiting for you since before you were born. And when you arrive, even your enemies will have no choice but to acknowledge the strength they underestimated. You may soon find yourself stepping into positions of influence, places where your voice carries weight and your actions set the tone. And as you rise, those who once undermined you will feel the tremors of the ground shifting beneath their feet. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54-17. Have you noticed that the higher the tree grows, the more it stands out against the skyline, and the more the wind tries to shake it? Leadership is not simply about holding a title. It's about navigating storms without losing sight of the horizon. The chaos of today's world can tempt even the strongest to step into petty disputes. But you have been called to something higher. In the vast ocean, the lighthouse doesn't compete with the waves. It stands, Unshakable, guiding ships no matter how violently the sea roars. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. Could it be that the turbulence around you is not a sign of failure, but proof that your light is being noticed? When the negativity presses in, remember that you are not navigating this path alone. The shepherd walks with you, his rod and staff ready to defend. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. There's a reason you were chosen for this journey. You are equipped with strengths you don't even know you have yet. The eagle does not learn to ride the wind in calm skies. It learns in the midst of the storm. And you, too, are learning to ride the very currents meant to break you. Recognize your worth, for your value is not defined by the blindness of others. A pearl remains a pearl even in the mud. Its luster is hidden but never lost. Why spend your energy trying to convince those determined not to see? Do not cast your pearls before swine. Matthew 7:6. In the same way, your calling is too precious to waste on those who only drain your strength. As you keep your eyes forward, God Himself takes care of those who have wronged you. In nature, the river never stops to argue with rocks. It flows around them, carving its path deeper, wider, and stronger. That is the quiet power of persistence. In the words of the film The Mission, 1986, we must work in the world, but the world is not our master. Your task is to keep working, knowing that the true judge sees all. By staying focused and optimistic, you will find yourself naturally distancing from toxic circles. Like the dawn pushing away the night without a single word, you will see old patterns fade, simply because your light leaves no room for their shadows. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Have you felt how peace becomes magnetic when you refuse to be baited into conflict? Start each day with deliberate intent. Like a gardener planting seeds in soil, he's already cleared of weeds. Morning is the sacred moment when your mind is most open to direction. Shield it fiercely. If the first drops of rain in the day are poisoned, the whole stream risks contamination, so guard the source. Your inner resolve is not just a defense, it is a compass pointing you toward a life marked by dignity, purpose, and joy. And even when your day begins with moments that threaten to derail you, like a sudden insult, a false accusation, or a dismissive glance, remember that storms cannot linger forever. The same God who commands the thunder also paints the rainbow. Rise, keep walking, and let your perseverance preach louder than your words. This is your season to stand firm, to outlast the noise, and to step into the destiny designed only for you. When the day begins with a distressing text or call that poisons your mood before you've even stepped out the door, it's like a crack forming in the foundation of a building before the first brick of the day is laid. If this feels familiar, understand this. You must seal that crack immediately. In architecture, engineers know that even the smallest fracture, left unchecked, can compromise the structural integrity of the entire edifice. Above else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. Why let a few careless words set the frequency for your entire day? Shutting down these sources of negativity is not avoidance, it's strategic protection. Psychologists call it cognitive boundary setting, the intentional act of deciding what information and emotions you will allow into your mental space. Just as an orchestra tunes to a specific pitch before a performance, your spirit must tune itself to the frequency of peace before engaging with the world. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. Could it be that the chaos you feel is simply the result of starting your day tuned to the wrong frequency? Cultivating a positive mindset isn't a cliché, it's a daily architectural project. Each thought is a brick, each choice a beam, each act of kindness a window that lets light in. Over time, you are constructing a cathedral of resilience, one whose vaulted ceilings are held aloft by pillars of faith and hope. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. Have you noticed how sacred spaces feel different the moment you step inside? That's the same transformation your inner life can bring when built with intention. Replace old anxieties with investments in life-giving practices. Surround yourself with communities that operate on mutual encouragement, people who amplify your strengths instead of magnifying your flaws. This is what physicists might call constructive interference, where two waves meet and their amplitudes combine, creating something stronger than either could produce alone. Two are better than one if either of them falls down. One can help the other up. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. History gives us countless examples of individuals who embodied this principle. One is Fred Rogers, beloved television host and creator of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Behind his calm demeanor was a fierce intentionality. He famously said, "I believe that appreciation is a holy thing." Every show was meticulously crafted to foster kindness and understanding, proving that soft power, when consistent, reshapes entire cultures. Isn't it telling that his influence endures decades later, while louder? Archer voix fade. Fully embracing this path means more than just avoiding the toxic. It means actively moving toward the fertile ground where your potential can take root. Perseverance through adversity becomes your testimony, showing others that thriving is not only possible, it's inevitable for those who refuse to surrender. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6-9. And when yesterday felt like a defeat, remember, the dawn is a reset button written into the laws of creation. Athletes know the value of the quiet between rounds. It's where strategy is rebuilt, muscles reset, and vision clears. Spiritually, your nights are those intervals, your mornings, the bell that calls you back into the ring. The match isn't over. It's simply entering the next round, and you are better prepared than before. Arise now. Shut the door on voices that drain you. Align your thoughts with heaven's blueprint, and walk into this day as the architect of your own atmosphere. Your setbacks are scaffolding, your trials are stress tests, and the structure God is building in you will stand long after the storms have passed. Today is not just another date on the calendar, it is a fresh canvas, waiting for you to paint over the stains of yesterday. Clinging to past frustrations is like carrying stones in your backpack on a long climb. The higher you go, the heavier they feel, and the slower you move. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. Isaiah 43:18. Why allow yesterday's shadows to block today's sunrise? You will meet people who cannot, or will not, see your worth. Sometimes they are blinded by their own insecurities, and other times they fear the potential they see in you. Yet, you are not fighting these battles alone. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. There is a higher power working behind the scenes, arranging events, shifting circumstances, and shielding you from the attacks you don't even know about. Have you considered how many battles have already been won for you without your awareness? This protection becomes even more noticeable when you're going through a spiritual awakening. The more you awaken, the more sensitive you become to the energies around you, and the more you see the hidden motives of people. That is why keeping your peace is not weakness, it is strategy. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. John 14:27. Even in tough spots, there is a bigger picture unfolding, and the scales of fairness will tilt back in your favor. In history, there have been people who embodied this principle. One such figure is Malala Yousafzai, a young Pakistani activist who, despite being targeted and attacked for pursuing education, refused to surrender to fear. She once said, "One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." Her perseverance transformed her from a victim into a global voice for justice. Doesn't this prove that when you refuse to give up, your trials can become the very thing that amplifies your influence? The same principle works in reverse. Think of Bernie Madoff, the infamous financier who orchestrated the largest Ponzi scheme in history. For decades, he manipulated trust for personal gain. But when his web of lies unraveled, it destroyed not only his reputation, but also the lives of those closest to him. His end was one of disgrace, isolation, and imprisonment, a reminder that those who thrive on harming others eventually face the consequences. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Proverbs 26:27. How many times has history shown that the collapse of the wicked is as certain as the rising of the sun? Your current challenges might feel like obstacles, but they could actually be guiding you toward a better path, one where your strengths shine brighter and your impact is greater. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. Romans 8:28. By refusing to stay stuck in negativity, you transform these hurdles into stepping stones, each one lifting you closer to the life you were meant to live. Surround yourself with people who lift you higher, those whose presence is like fresh air in a stuffy room. The wrong company will drain your spirit, but the right one will fuel your purpose. This is why your circle matters. It shapes your altitude. The eagle does not waste time explaining its flight to pigeons. It simply keeps soaring. Shake off the dust of yesterday. Guard your peace as if it were a crown, and keep walking toward the promise ahead. This is not the time to shrink. It is the time to shine. And when you get there, the very ones who doubted you will be forced to admit they underestimated the strength of a chosen one. Being constantly surrounded by downbeat, cynical voices is like trying to grow a delicate flower in soil laced with salt. It stunts your growth and warps your perspective. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Why let their pessimism pollute the garden of your mind when you have the power to plant seeds of hope instead? Shift your focus toward cultivating relationships that nourish your spirit. Just as rain nourishes parched earth, build bonds with people who celebrate your victories without envy, who challenge you to grow without tearing you down. Just as the tallest sunflowers lean toward the sun, your soul will naturally lean toward the warmth of those who radiate light. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. Could it be that your growth has been limited, not by your abilities, but by the shadows you've been standing too close to? This is also a perfect season to reflect deeply on what you truly want. Life has a rhythm like the changing tides, and when you align with it, you find yourself propelled forward without forcing every step. Invest in new skills, explore hobbies that light up your imagination, and take on projects that stir your passion. Just as a caterpillar's time in the chrysalis transforms it into a butterfly. Your season of preparation is forming, the wings you'll need for your next chapter. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. Proverbs 16:3. And life's surprises, they are often wrapped in plain paper, unnoticed until unwrapped. The unexpected detours may be the very roads that lead to treasures you never thought to seek. In Amélie Dumoulin, the titular character finds joy and purpose in small, seemingly trivial acts of kindness, each one creating ripples that change the lives of others. Isn't that the way God often works? Turning what looks ordinary into something extraordinary. Gratitude is the key that unlocks more than joy. It opens the door to abundance. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you, in Christ Jesus. 1 Thessalonians 5:18. The more you train your heart to see blessings, the more blessings seem to appear. Like the forest that regenerates after a wildfire, gratitude transforms loss into fertile ground for new growth. Every obstacle you've conquered is more than a personal victory. It's a lighthouse for those still navigating their storms. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. When you rise above trials, you send a signal. Survival is possible. Healing is real. And victory is worth fighting for. And isn't it striking how your resilience can become the blueprint for someone else's breakthrough? But victory isn't built only in the battle. It's also forged in stillness. Take time for reflection and solitude. Walk among the trees, and let their silent endurance remind you that strength is often quiet. Watch the river flow, and realize it never resists the bend in its path. It adapts, yet continues toward its destination. Your moments of peace are not escapes from reality. They are sanctuaries where your mind and spirit recalibrate. And when the world demands you hurry, remember that even the most magnificent oak grows slowly, one ring at a time. Even the brightest dawn takes time to break the night. So, rise not rushed, not frantic, but steady and certain. This is your time to guard your peace. Focus your heart and step boldly into the story heaven is writing for you. Staying grounded is not about standing still. It is about anchoring yourself so deeply in truth that no storm can uproot you. Just as architects design skyscrapers with deep, fortified foundations to withstand the push and pull of wind, your spirit must be anchored in principles that hold under pressure. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Psalm 1-3. Could it be that your peace is not simply a feeling, but the very bedrock on which your entire life structure rests? When you embrace peaceful moments, you are not withdrawing from the world. You are recharging to re-enter it stronger. Psychologists call this cognitive recalibration, deliberately resetting your mental framework to process challenges with clarity instead of chaos. Think of it as tuning the strings of a violin before a symphony. Even the most masterful performance falters without proper tension and balance. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. These quiet intervals are not wasted. They are the interludes between battles. The silent moments in a championship match when the fighter takes a knee in the corner, breathes deeply, and lets the coach's voice drown out the roar of the crowd. Without those pauses, stamina fades. Without your pauses, purpose fades. Have you noticed how often your greatest breakthroughs arrive after seasons of stillness? Maintaining an optimistic and vibrant attitude acts like a natural resonance amplifier in physics. Positivity doesn't just repel negativity, it generates a frequency that influences the environment around you, attracting people and opportunities that align with your mission. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Nehemiah 8:10. This is not wishful thinking, it's the law of spiritual and emotional dynamics. History gives us luminous examples of this truth. One is Dr. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and Holocaust survivor, who wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves, even in the bleakest circumstances. He cultivated a mindset that saw purpose as the ultimate source of survival. Doesn't this show that optimism, when rooted in meaning, becomes unbreakable armor? On the opposite end, we have stories of leaders who let bitterness corrode their vision until it destroyed everything they built. One such figure was Napoleon's later years, where the insatiable thirst for power overrode strategic wisdom, leading to exile and humiliation. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. How many have fallen, not because they lacked ability, but because they abandoned humility and clarity. As we move forward, our commitment to spreading love and striving for excellence must be intentional, like laying one brick after another in the construction of a cathedral. Each act of kindness is a cornerstone. Each moment of discipline is a support beam. Each word of encouragement is a stained glass window, letting heaven's light through. And just like in architecture, the integrity of the whole depends on the precision of each part. Comfort yourself with the unshakable truth. The Creator of the universe is not distant from your journey. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. The alignment of heaven's design and your obedience is a blueprint no opposition can erase. So, rise. Guard your inner sanctuary as fiercely as a fortress guards its gates. Let your peace become your protest, your resilience, your testimony, and your light, a beacon in places still covered in shadow. This is not the moment to shrink back. It is the moment to step forward with steady hands, clear vision, and a heart tuned to the frequency of eternity. There is a law in heaven that no earthly scheme can override, a principle so consistent that it threads through centuries of human history. When God's chosen are pushed down, heaven reverses the current and lifts them higher than they stood before. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up. James 4:10. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the very trap set for your downfall became the staircase to your throne? The story of Esther in the Bible captures this reversal with divine precision. A young Jewish woman, taken from obscurity, became queen at the exact moment her people faced annihilation. What her enemies intended for destruction, God used as the platform for salvation. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Genesis 50:20. Isn't it powerful to realize that the plans made against you can become the very proof of your calling? This principle isn't confined to scripture. It echoes in real life. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential women in the world, was told early in her career that she was unfit for television. Yet that rejection became the fire that drove her to create her own platform, shaping a global media empire and inspiring millions. She once said, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." Could your current rejection be the birthplace of your authority? But the divine reversal doesn't just elevate the faithful, it also exposes the schemes of the corrupt. In history, one striking example is Richard Nixon, whose political power seemed untouchable until the Watergate scandal unraveled his empire. The very system he used to protect his image became the evidence that destroyed it. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Proverbs 26:27. How many have built castles of deceit, only to see them crumble under the weight of their own lies? Every time this law activates, it sends a message. God is not blind to injustice. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. The delay in your breakthrough isn't denial. It's the setup for a reversal so dramatic that it silences the mockers and strengthens the faithful. You are not called to fight every battle. Some victories are engineered in heaven's court long before they're revealed on earth. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18. The key is to keep walking, keep building, and keep your integrity intact while the reversal unfolds. Rise now. Stand tall in the place where they thought you'd never recover. Every word spoken against you, every plot whispered in dark corners, will serve as the evidence of how far you've risen. This is your season to turn the enemy's ladder into your platform, and when the reversal comes, and it will walk into it with your head held high, knowing heaven always has the final move. There is a shield around God's chosen that is not made of metal or stone, but of divine intention, a protective buffer placed between you and those who would seek to harm you. This barrier is invisible to the human eye, yet unbreakable in the spiritual realm, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Psalm 91:11. Have you ever wondered why some attacks seem to pass you by, as if something unseen intercepted them before they reached you? In nature, certain trees exude chemicals through their leaves and roots that repel harmful insects, creating a safe radius around them. Similarly, God positions you so that destructive forces cannot enter your sphere without his permission. You are my hiding place. You will protect me from trouble. Psalm 32:7. Could it be that some of the opportunities you thought you missed were actually poisonous fruits kept far from your reach? The sacred buffer is not just about defense, it's about positioning. Just as migratory birds instinctively follow wind patterns that keep them away from storms, the Spirit can guide your steps into paths where your enemies cannot follow. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Psalm 37:23. Isn't it striking how certain doors close abruptly, only for you to discover later they led to places you were never meant to be, in art and story? This principle is echoed in the French novel The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. The cathedral itself becomes a sanctuary where Esmeralda finds refuge from those who would destroy her. The towering walls, though made of stone, are a symbol of the unseen walls heaven builds around the righteous. Your life, too, is surrounded by such architecture, not of brick, but of blessing. And just as the Arctic fox's white fur blends with snow to avoid predators, the sacred buffer sometimes hides you in plain sight, making you invisible to those searching for your downfall. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. Psalm 121:5. How many times has God hidden you in the crowd until the appointed moment for you to be revealed? This divine shield ensures that those who aim to harm you often find themselves frustrated, striking at shadows they cannot grasp, and in their confusion, their own plans unravel. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. Rise today knowing you are not walking through life unprotected. There is a perimeter heaven has drawn around you, and nothing crosses it without God's approval. Keep moving forward. Stay within his guidance, and trust that your buffer is intact. When the time comes for you to step fully into the open, you will do so untouched, carrying the proof that heaven's defense is stronger than any attack. Not every closed door is a rejection. Sometimes it is a reinforcement, a structural safeguard designed to keep you from walking into collapse. In architecture, load-bearing walls are not placed for convenience, but for protection. They carry the weight of the entire building. Removing one without understanding its purpose leads to disaster. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Isaiah 55:8. Could it be that the door you wanted so badly was actually holding back something that would have crushed you? In the spiritual realm, these sealed doors function like the safety interlocks in nuclear reactors, systems that shut down instantly if danger is detected. No matter how promising the operation seemed moments before, he shuts and no one can open. And what he opens, no one can shut. Revelation 3-7. Sometimes these closures come during the between rounds, moments of your life, the pause in the fight, when you're sent back to your corner. To the untrained eye, it looks like inaction. To the seasoned fighter, it's the moment strategy is refined, wounds are treated, and the next decisive blow is planned. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. What if the waiting period you despise is actually your training ground for the weight of the crown? We see this principle in real life through people like J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. Before becoming one of the best-selling authors in history, she faced multiple rejections from publishers. Each no was a sealed door, but it forced her to refine her manuscript until it was strong enough to open the right door, the one that led to a global phenomenon. She once said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." Isn't it striking how the right foundation determines the height of the structure? These sealed doors also protect you from people who cannot carry the weight of your calling, like mismatched gears in a clock. Their presence in your journey would disrupt the entire mechanism. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Psalm 37:23. The sealing is not punishment, it's alignment. So the next time you stand before a door that refuses to open, remember, heaven's blueprint includes walls, gates, and barriers for a reason. Your job is not to batter it down in frustration, but to trust the architect who sees the entire structure. We walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5-7. Rise with patience, not panics. Keep building the parts of the structure that are yours to build, knowing that when the time is right, the door designed for you will swing open effortlessly and you will walk through it ready, steady, and unshakable. There is a law in the spiritual realm, as sure as gravity in the natural. What you release into the world will find its way back to you. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. Have you noticed how those who plot against others often end up tangled in the very nets they set? This is not coincidence. It is the architecture of divine justice. Like a perfectly balanced equation, heaven ensures that no input goes without an output. Even the smallest act, whether of kindness or cruelty, sets invisible ripples in motion that will eventually find their way back to the source. And when it returns, it never comes back in the same measure. It comes multiplied. The boomerang curse is heaven's way of ensuring that the energy, words, and actions sent out will always return, either as a blessing or as a judgment. In the book of Esther, Haman built gallows to execute Mordecai, yet he himself was hung upon them. Esther 7:10. What happens when the pit someone dug for you becomes the grave for their own ambitions? This is the spiritual equivalent of a storm gathering strength as it circles back toward its origin. The more malice invested into a scheme, the more weight it carries on the return trip. And when it finally lands, it doesn't just dismantle the plan, it shakes the very foundation of the one who conceived it. This principle is not just ancient wisdom, it's a living reality. Take the example of Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur behind Tesla and SpaceX. In 2008, when both companies were on the brink of collapse, Tesla nearly bankrupt, and SpaceX suffering 3 consecutive rocket failures, critics predicted his career was finished. But under that crushing pressure, instead of folding, he doubled down, pouring his remaining fortune into one final rocket launch. That 4th launch succeeded, securing a NASA contract that saved SpaceX and transformed the aerospace industry. He once said, "When something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor." Could it be that every attempt to break a chosen one becomes the ignition point for their greatest leap forward? In Musk's case, the season meant to end him became the launch pad that carried his vision beyond Earth. And doesn't that show us that the enemy's most desperate strike is often the trigger for our greatest breakthrough? But history also offers stark warnings about the reverse side of this law. One notorious example is Joseph McCarthy, the U.S. senator who led a campaign of fear and false accusations during the Red Scare. For a time, his power seemed absolute, but his reckless tactics eventually turned public opinion against him. Stripped of influence and disgraced, he died politically isolated. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26-27. The higher the wall of deception, the harder the collapse when truth kicks it down. And in McCarthy's case, the fall was so complete that his name became synonymous with the very injustice he once wielded. God's justice system does not operate on human timelines, but it is exact in its execution. "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," says the Lord. Romans 12:19. That's why the chosen are called to hold their peace and stay their course, trusting that heaven's court is in session even when earth seems silent. Like a seed under the soil, judgment is hidden from view until its appointed time, but when it sprouts, its roots run deep and its reach is undeniable. The waiting can be uncomfortable, but it is in this waiting that strength, faith, and patience are refined. And by the time the verdict falls, it will be both undeniable and irreversible. The return impact of this spiritual boomerang is often greater than the original throw, for with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Luke 6:38. Those who sow generosity and truth will see an overflow of blessing. Those who sow deceit and harm will reap a multiplied harvest of their own making. The spiritual law at work here is like the law of resonance in physics. Whatever frequency you emit will eventually sync back with you, stronger and more defined. It's not magic. It's alignment. Heaven aligns the harvest to the seed, ensuring no one receives what they didn't plant. And when the return finally comes, it will leave no doubt about where it originated. Rise, chosen one. Refuse to waste your energy on revenge. Your job is to plant the right seeds. Walk in integrity, and let God handle the harvest. The curse meant for you is already circling back to its sender, and the blessing meant for you is already on its way. Stand firm, because every moment you remain unmoved is another step closer to your divine vindication. And when it comes, it won't just restore what you lost, it will elevate you beyond what you imagined possible. There is a shield over the chosen that is not made of steel or stone. It is woven from prayer, obedience, and the covenant of God. The Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. This protection often works in silence, moving behind the scenes, redirecting attacks before they even reach you. Have you ever wondered why certain disasters you feared never actually touched you? The answer is that heaven's defense system works like the deep ocean currents, unseen, yet powerful enough to change the course of entire storms. Even when enemies think they have a perfect strike planned, the hand of God shifts the winds. This shield does not promise the absence of challenges. It promises survival and eventual triumph, just like the alpine trees that bend under heavy snow but do not break. The chosen bend under trials, but rise again when the weight melts away. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Psalm 34-19. The bending is part of the process. It keeps your roots anchored deeper into faith while your enemies believe they've pushed you to the ground. But the moment the thaw comes, you rise taller, greener, and stronger than before. In literature, we see this truth mirrored in Victor Hugo's Les Misérables. Jean Valjean is hunted relentlessly by Inspector Javert. Yet every pursuit ultimately leads Valjean closer to his redemption and mission. The very force meant to destroy him becomes the catalyst for his moral and spiritual victory. Isn't that exactly how divine protection works? The pursuit doesn't vanish, but it is transformed into a pathway that still leads you to your calling. For the chosen, resistance becomes refinement. Nature itself preaches this principle. The pearl is not formed without the irritation of the grain of sand, and the butterfly does not fly without first wrestling against the cocoon. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54-17 is not a poetic exaggeration. It's the structural law of the kingdom. The weapon may be formed. It may even be aimed. But the breath of God shifts its trajectory. What was meant to pierce you falls harmlessly to the ground or strikes back at the one who sent it. The silent shield also works in timing. It may hold back the full force of the battle until you have gathered enough wisdom, allies, and spiritual maturity to face it without breaking. In that sense, it operates like the conductor of a symphony, delaying certain notes until the perfect moment. So the music lands with maximum impact. The chosen are not protected just from the enemy. They are protected from facing certain storms before they are equipped to walk through them. So keep walking in obedience, because your silence is not weakness. It is a strategic stillness under divine cover. You are not avoiding the fight. You are letting the architect of heaven decide when, where, and how the confrontation will happen. And when it does, it will be on ground he has chosen, not your enemies. Stand firm. The shield is still in place, and every arrow that fails to touch you is proof that your destiny remains untouched. There comes a divine moment in the architecture of a chosen one's journey when the entire structure of your story shifts suddenly, irreversibly. In structural mechanics, it's like the release of a counterweight in a grand clock tower. Years of hidden tension stored in gears and pulleys. And then, in a single moment, the balance changes, and the whole system moves in harmony. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Psalm 118-22. But have you realized that sometimes the very pressure crushing you is the exact force God is using to catapult you into a higher realm? God works with the precision of a celestial engineer, aligning every beam, arch, and invisible foundation until the resonance of his plan is perfect. The reversal is like the moment a great violin, silent for centuries in a museum, finally meets the hands of a master musician. With one perfect stroke of the bow, the room fills with sound so pure it feels eternal. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 30-5. And when that sound bursts forth in your life, will you be ready to walk through the doors it unlocks? From a psychological perspective, This shift resembles a cognitive reframe. When the mind reorganizes its patterns and what was once seen as a limitation becomes the seed of authority, what your enemies mocked as fragility becomes the steel framework of your rise. History is rich with examples. Nikola Tesla, the visionary inventor, spent much of his life overshadowed, dismissed, and even sabotaged by others in his field. Yet the same innovations they rejected became the backbone of modern electrical systems, proof that a rejection today can be the foundation of a revolution tomorrow. Could it be that your present, buried season is hiding the very blueprint of your future influence? The Bible reinforces this in the story of Moses, cast into the river as a baby to escape death. Raised in the house of Pharaoh, his early life looked like a scattered, mismatched puzzle. Yet God was positioning him as the deliverer of an entire nation. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. In modern times, consider J.K. Rowling, rejected by a dozen publishers, living on welfare, and battling depression. She could have abandoned her manuscript and faded into anonymity. Instead, she turned her struggle into story, birthing the Harry Potter series that would captivate the globe. The same pages that were dismissed as unmarketable became the foundation of a literary empire, proving that what the world labels as failure can become the very blueprint for destiny, for the chosen ones. Reversal is never random. It's a divine equation where every loss is multiplied into a greater gain. Every delay was a stress test. Every betrayal, a calibration. Every humiliation, a deliberate excavation for the foundation God was laying. And when the reversal arrives, it will not be a quiet affair. It will be the sudden blaze of arena lights, revealing that the battlefield you endured has now become your coronation stage. So stand unshaken. Even when the weight feels unbearable, the master builder is about to shift the balance. And when he does, the very people who tried to dismantle your structure will have no choice but to enter through the gates you designed. Every chapter, every scar, every night you thought you wouldn't make it, he was there. He saw the traps they set, the lies they whispered, the weapons they formed, and yet, here you are, standing in a place they swore you'd never reach. This is not survival. This is divine proof that no curse can override the covenant of the chosen. The fate of those who crossed you, it is already written in the courts of heaven. And justice is not delayed, it is precise. But your future, it is being carved in light, with hands that do not tremble. You carry the architecture of God's own kingdom within you, and no one can evict you from it. As Isaías 54:17 declares, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. End of tribe. From this moment, do not walk like someone recovering, walk like someone reigning. Lift your head, steady your shoulders, and step as though the ground itself is honored to carry you. Speak it aloud in the comments. I am chosen. I am covered. I am unstoppable. Let your declaration ripple through realms seen and unseen. If this word has struck something deep in your spirit, like it so more chosen ones can be awakened, share it with the warriors who need to remember their armor. Subscribe so you never miss a word that could shift the entire trajectory of your life. To those who have sown into this work through super thanks, your generosity is seen, and it multiplies in ways you cannot yet imagine. And to every silent listener, every faithful watcher, your presence is a seed, and heaven will water it. May the God who chose you before the world began bless you with wisdom that blinds your enemies, peace that disarms every attack, and favor that overflows into generations yet unborn. Go now, not as the one who survived, but as the one who reigns. Your rise is not coming. It is here,